We are talking about intuition this week. How does that work for you? It came up because I was noticing I wasn't paying attention and trusting mine. So a lot of what we do today is going to be sharing some tips, and I would love your feedback. What have you noticed when you've been paying attention to your intuition this week? Does it work well for you? Do you have a good system going on with your intuition? Pop in the comments as we go. And I'll start off with a lovely fact for those of you who are the fact junkies. Neuroscientists tell us that our hearts and our guts have memory and intelligence. Yes, our heart and our gut have their own brains. What does that mean to you? Just a little fact to start this off when we're talking about intuition. In that first video that I did this week, I mentioned that feelings are what separates us from computers. That's all intuition is, something that we feel that provides information. How possible is it that we have all the facts all the time? There are always going to be elements that are out of our control. That's when we have to make a choice based on how we feel about it. This is tough stuff for a lot of us. Trusting something that's the opposite of what is black and white. There's always that fear of making the wrong choice, but there is hope that we can tune up this skill. That's what we're doing today. I'm going to be offering some tips in a minute coming up. And think about this. We're going along dealing with the consequences of our choices anyway. We might as well utilize another tool to contribute to making that choice. As I go, share your thoughts and comments about how your intuition shows up for you, what it's like, does it work for you, does it not? And I can respond to them as we are going. Perspective is one of those things that can shoot us in the foot. As far as, if we have that fear of going off of our intuition and that it's scary, then that could be our perspective of feeling like it's going to be debilitating if we think our choices are permanent. But we don't have to think in absolutes. Intuition is impermanent. It fluctuates with how we feel. It provides new information in each moment. We can always choose again. This is a process, and it's challenging at first. Remember, when you're learning anything new, exercise some compassion with yourself. Start small. There are always easy, simple ways to build it up. Let's jump into some tips. One tip for how to tune up that intuition is to remember to actually slow down. How can you build a relationship with yourself if you are always running along to the next thing? Find some space to listen. The fear here for some of us is that when we take the time to slow down and listen, we're afraid of what we might find. We've got to remember that we can't heal anything that hasn't surfaced. If there's that fear of what we'll find when we pay attention, when we slow down, remember we can't heal anything that hasn't surfaced. In small increments, we can increase the courage factor there. Another tip for increasing your intuition, trusting it, is to clear out any beliefs that are holding you back. Those negative limiting beliefs interfere with your true intuition. A lot of what coaching does is working on the beliefs and the thought patterns. You can do this too. Catch yourself in something that doesn't serve you. That's a thought. It's not your intuition. If there's something like, I can't do this, there's something that's holding you back, there's something negative that has that kind of down pulling feeling, that's not your intuition. That's your brain and those thought patterns getting in the way and holding you back. So those are good things to be aware of. When you can clear those out, intuition can just flow and work as it's supposed to. Another tip for accessing your intuition is to practice meditation. There it is again. Boy, does that come up a lot. Learning to orchestrate those thoughts trains your power. You're better able to sift through the ones that don't serve you. And it's also an opportunity to rest. You can rejuvenate yourself so that you feel fresh to receive the messages from your intuition. If you're too stressed out, they could be talking to you all they want, but they're not getting through. One great big tip, and this is kind of the big one for what intuition is and does, is to pay attention to your body signals. That could be as simple as watching for when there is expansion versus contraction. Let me describe that a little bit. So when you're in a state of feeling open and expanded, that might be when you feel really good about something, when the mood is light, when it's playful, when you're happy. Anything that feels good, there's this freedom, there's this opening in your body. Anything that doesn't feel good, it tends to contract. It pulls in. We might feel a tightening at the throat, a tightening at the heart, a rounding in the shoulders, a seizing up in the back. Those are contractions. So anything that has this expansive opening can be seen as a yes, a move towards. Anything that's a contraction is a shut down, a no. One example that I had this week of paying attention to the body signals is that while I've been dealing with all of these technical issues, I made an attempt to contact Microsoft support for some help with a live video that I did last week. I don't know if that's ever a good idea, to be perfectly honest with you, but I had to try something. So the question for my intuition was, is this going to help or is this going to be a waste of time? The hit that I got was that it was going to be a waste of time. But I stopped and tried to pay attention to what that hit felt like. You can look at where did you feel that sensation in your body? Where did you feel that intuitive hit, whatever you want to describe it? Where did you feel that in your body that gave you that thought that this is not a good idea? For me, in this case, it was simple and subtle. It was just this barely there hesitation in my core, in the center of my chest, that just, it was this stopping, halting feeling. Because instincts are grounded in our feelings, watching your body sensations is an ideal way to tune up that intuition. It's about moving from a head space down to a heart space or a body space, moving out of our logic and into what we intuitively just sense and feel and are present to in our bodies. It takes practice. That's what we're doing today. Another tip, get into the creativity. Anything creative, anything that is not logical or linear can tune up our intuition. Life isn't black and white. We can't always logic this stuff out in our heads. And again, we may not have all the facts. We're not computers. Creativity is a great way to tap into how you feel. I would love to hear from you, for those of you who are popping on, what forms of creativity you feel give you that sense of expansion, give you that sense of freedom or openness. Does your intuition come up when you are being creative? In whatever ways? Is that when those sensations just flow and you can just respond on impulse? Is it safer there? All kinds of interesting thoughts to think about. Another tip for tuning up your intuition is to create some kind of an intuition journal. It could look like making a guess about something and then noticing any physical sensations that are associated with your guess. Darren says, did you know that computers were originally people and at JPL they were all women? Wow. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? So they were operated, yes. So yes, I did know that they were operated. Didn't know that they were all women. That's super interesting because if you're going to speak in generalizations, isn't it women that generally are known for trusting their intuition a little bit more? What an interesting thought to bring to this conversation, Darren. Thank you. All right, so we're talking intuition journals. Making a guess at something, noticing what body sensations accompany your guess, and then watching how your intuition speaks to you. Maybe you see a flash like a movie, or maybe you just can't pinpoint it, you just know. Does anybody know about the clairs? Clairs, C-L-A-I-R-S, clairs as in clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance. There's a bunch of them, actually. I thought there were only 6, and then I looked it up. I think there's more, like 7 or 8. There is a clair, an accompanying sensation for each of our 5 senses. So there's a sense feeling for taste and smell as well. I think that's clairescence, clairalience. The taste one, I can't quite remember. Something with a G. They're kind of fun. Look them up. Anyway, those clairs are ways that our intuition can communicate to us, and it's not just certain people that have access to that. We all have access to that on some level. This is what we're talking about today, is tuning that up, tuning up those skills. Journaling is a written observation to train your awareness. Free flow writing is another way to use the journaling process to tune up your intuition. It's a different way to do it. Oftentimes people that like that free flow writing, they'll just write out whatever they're working on, and the answers just come to them if they just keep free flowing. I don't know if there's a Claire for that. If you guys find one, let me know. Claire scribing. I don't know. There should be. Anyway, questions, comments, those were the tips that I was going to mention today. We talked meditation, we talked clearing your blocks, we talked slowing down and listening, we talked intuition journal, and missing one, paying attention to body signals, creativity. All great ways to tune up your intuition. And you know what? The bottom line is that this is ultimately a leap of faith. Isn't that what responding without facts is? This also means that once we're choosing based on intuition, our answers might not come right away. That's a scary thought, because it's not linear, because it's not black and white logical. You can't reason this out. We might have a waiting period before we're 100% confident that we did make the right choice when we responded to our intuition. It's great to start small when building this, like a muscle, like anything else. Using those tips is a great way to begin to develop a relationship with your intuition before you choose to rely on it for bigger decisions. Start small. Start with predicting when the stoplights are going to change. I used to play with when I'd put like a CD on shuffle, and I don't think we really do that anymore, but I used to play with what song is going to come up next. There are lots of tiny little ways that we can train our intuition, build up that muscle before it gets to those big decisions where if we're not well trained in it, that's when we might seize up and get in a place of fear that gets in the way. Speaking of fear, I'll close with this. If you haven't seen the articles that I posted to help with intuition, I tend to post articles to support the weekly theme on Tuesdays over at my page, The Alchemy of Happiness, on Facebook. One of them, surprise, surprise, was from Carla McLaren. I know you all who follow me are so shocked that this is, I mentioned a Carla McLaren thing. She's amazing. Okay, she's amazing. Carla McLaren's take on intuition is that it is all about our emotions. If we learn to respond and use our emotions the way that they're meant to be used as tools to inform us, that's all intuition really is. And intuition is, if you were going to be specific about which emotion, it's that emotion that keeps us alert. It's the emotion that keeps us aware. It's the emotion that keeps our senses heightened and ready. Do you guys know what that emotion is? If this boggles your mind, it's kind of wild. It's fear. Oh my goodness. Is Annika saying that there's a good reason to have fear? Fear, the soft side of fear, that informative part of fear, is what keeps us alert and aware and tuned in to the information in our surroundings that we need to know about in order to choose our next steps. Check out that article that I posted from Carla McLaren. I might share another one later because it's amazing. It's just a total shift about how we can relate to our emotions. It's very refreshing, I find, because I don't think that we should be excising or getting rid of or eliminating any of our emotions, including fear. We just have to learn how to use it in the right way. I'm going to sign off before my technology backfires on me again. Anybody that watches the replay, feel free to pop in comments, and we'll do this next week. Bye.